Hello family, my name is Chris, I am your home gamer dad, and welcome to another Joe breakdown for G.I. Joe Mission Critical. Last time I brought you the core box and all of the Joes that were in there, and now we're going to be looking at the first 3 expansions that came out for the game. So that means the Joes that we're going to be looking at today are Bombstrike, Gung Ho, and Roadblock. All of them came with the Heavy Firepower expansion. And then you have Ripcord and Beachhead, who are both found in the Chaos Break expansion. And then the amazing Sargent Slaughter, who has his own expansion all to himself. We'll also be looking at 6 vehicles today, which is 1 per Joe, and that's actually what comes with these various expansions. 3 vehicles. Sargent Slaughter has his own vehicle, and these guys have 2. In order to see what vehicles come with what expansion, you can always look in the bottom left corner of all the cards in order to find the symbol on there that matches the expansion. You have like the double bullet one over here. You have like this anarchy symbol over for these guys, and then Sargent Slaughter has cool sunglasses for him. And if you're interested in more vehicles for your G.I. Joe Mission Critical game, you can always head on over to the Renegade website in order to find their vehicle promo packs. They have a bunch of vehicles in there that you can add to it. Some really awesome stuff that I'm pretty sure I'm going to be covering in shorts, like I've been doing with like the Power Ranger stuff recently. Lastly, for those that are new, when I go through these breakdowns, when I talk about combos, I generally just stick with it to those that I have in front of me. It's a little bit weirder with the Joes because there's no set teams or whatever, so I can kind of have to bounce back and forth with characters that I've seen and used and things like that. But regardless of anything, I want to hear from you. What characters have you comboed off of these particular guys here? Have you been able to pull off some amazing wins with, using certain cards in conjunction with other ones? Have you combined them with Power Rangers? There's so many different ways that these characters can play off of each other. It's a different game every single time you play, and that is why I love the Guardian system. With that said, strap in troops, it's time to take this training to the next level. Here we go, and as always, say it with me now, Yo Joe. Etienne R. Lafitte, codename Gung Ho. One of the craziest and scariest jarheads to come out of boot camp, Gung Ho's esprit de corps attitude is infectious, especially on the battlefield when he's going head-to-head, man-to-man with Cobra. Born on the bayou and part of a large Cajun clan, Gung Ho has a reputation as a tough brawler in New Orleans. He's a very proud Marine, which he isn't shy about exhibiting his huge USMC tattoo on his chest. His special ability, Jungle Specialist. Once per battle, when you reveal a star ability for defense, you may resolve that ability an additional time. Gung Ho has 5 star ability cards within his 10 card deck, so you should be able to pull this move off quite a bit. And let me tell you, some of those star abilities are amazing. You definitely want to have him in your deck if you are running a defensive crew, because he'll be able to take the hits and deal them out, no problem. As far as the costs go in his deck, he has 0x energy, 5-0 energy, 4-1 energy, no 2 energy, and 1-3 energy cards. He has 8 attacks and 2 maneuvers, sits at the standard Type A 3-4-3 shield breakdown, and like I said, 5 of his 10 cards have star defense properties. Starting off with one of them right now, Bayou Brawler, a 0-cost 2-dice attack, which is just that's it if you have it in your hand. Otherwise, if this card is revealed for defense, deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice. Let me tell you, that ability right there, that deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice, in my playthrough that I had with Stalker and Snake Eyes and CoverGirl, that saved me so many times. Let me tell you, you do not want to cancel out or deny the fact that just dealing a single damage somewhere will be enough in order to knock out simple foot soldiers, especially ones that have terrible passives, or start bringing down those lieutenant powers down to a more reasonable a way that you can fight them. And still, a 0 cost for a 2 dice, even if it's in your hand, that's still not a bad thing to have. Moving on to another star ability, Recondo, a 0 cost maneuver card. Gain 2 energy and place this card on top of your deck. Then, if you reveal this card for defense, the next time any hero performs an attack during this battle, add 1 die to that attack. Could you imagine then also putting this on, and if you had the second one in your hand, revealing it from your hand, like this would reveal for defense, adding a die, and then you would reveal another one from your hand and a second die? Like, that type of power that Gung Ho brings to the deck is absolutely amazing. So there was 2 Bayou Ballers, there's 2 Recondos in the deck, and those 2 star abilities right there are fantastic. Able to ping out as much damage as you can, and then powering up other rolls. That's just amazing. Even by itself, you would want to have Recondo in your hand because 0 cost to just gain the 2 energy and then boom, right on top of your deck. Yes, It costs the Joes a turn, but the setup for that can really lead to some major victories. Next, we have Fearless Charge, a 1 energy, 2 dice attack, which doesn't seem like much, but after you resolve this attack, you may choose 1 card with a star ability from your discard pile and place it on top of your deck. I have seen powers and abilities from other types of sources. For Power Ranger, it would be Zords and abilities and whatnot. There are some vehicles here and there that would take star abilities and put them in your hand. You don't want them in your hand. Those star abilities are there for you to be able to activate the moment that your character is attacked. And the last 2 cards that we saw, adding a dice to an attack or just dealing 1 damage, you'd want to constantly cycle those back in over and over again, so this way Gung Ho can keep taking the hits, because this just gives him more life. This is effectively a healing card. And then once you flip it over for the star defense, boom, something happens in order to just give you even more of a boost in battle. Like, oh man, Gung Ho is so cool. He was so well designed. He's the ultimate in offense and defense. I love it. So good. Swivel Arm Battle Grip, which I'm pretty sure is what their toys were considered, with those like hinge joints and everything. A 1 energy, 3 dice attack. After you resolve this attack, if the target was not defeated, return this card to your hand instead of discarding it. If they were not defeated, that means you spent 3 dice in order to fight something and nothing happened to it, and then this comes back to your hand. Not so bad considering it's a 3 dice, 1 energy cost. That seems pretty average in terms of like dice for energy spent. You can always then throw down a Recondo later on to gain a bunch of energy and maybe play this card multiple times in multiple turns in a row, I should say. And then of course, it's the next attack would get a dice, so Recondo would then possibly build it up that way. So there's a lot of ways to make this stronger. And then again, if you don't beat the enemy, it'll just come right back to your hand anyway, instead of going into the discard pile. So he always has something in order to be able to get in there and knock some Cobra heads around. You can also see that tattoo very clearly on his chest there, which I believe that's not the official symbol for the Marines. It's kind of like an alternate one or whatever, simply because it's a copyrighted image and Gung Ho wouldn't be able to actually wear that as a toy. You know, Hasbro wouldn't be able to market that. So it's a little bit of an alter image, but you get the idea. He's very proud of his Marine training, his Marine time and everything, and he just wants to show it off loud and proud for everyone to see. Next, his super weapon, the grenade launcher. Power card, power weapon, whatever you want to call it. 3 energy, 5 dice attack. Straight up, that's all it does. But this is your 5th star defense card. If revealed for defense, you may discard 1 card from your hand to roll 2 dice and deal that much damage to an enemy card of your choice. This is also a 3 shield card. So any 3 shield star defense cards, in my opinion, are the absolute best, because you get the most out of them in terms of defense, plus you get to do something. The grenade launcher itself, 3 energy for 5 dice. That's not so bad. It's all right. I mean, it's just straight 5 damage, or 5 dice to 1 target, not avoiding guard, yada, yada, yada. But the whole thing of you may discard 1 card from your hand to roll 2 dice and deal damage to an enemy card of your choice is awesome, because you're just defending, putting this in your discard pile or putting it on the bottom, most likely on the bottom of your deck because it's a 3 shield. And then you could just toss any card you want in order to get a free 2 dice attack on anything. That right there, 2 dice attack, deal that much damage to an enemy card of your choice. That is not a targeted attack. That will pass by guard, which means that he's defended and then firing a grenade launcher and blowing it up in the face of any Cobra officer that he chooses. And then we have Fight for Freedom. This is your standard issue sidearm that you would find as the common card for actually every one of the decks that you see here on these characters. From left to right, Beachhead, Gung Ho, Ripcord, Roadblock, and Bombstrike. So we're going to be going over all 5 of those characters today, and each one of them will have 1 Fight for Freedom in their deck. Sargent Slaughter does not. He has his own thing, which I'm curious if later characters from the Marauders will have it as well. In any case, it's a 0 cost 2 dice attack, which is really awesome. After you resolve this attack, you may spend 1 energy to allow another hero to immediately play 1 card with an energy cost of 0. So it's just kind of a way of stacking cards one on top of each other. If you have a lot of 0 cards, which many of these characters do, you play Fight for Freedom, you do your 2 dice attack, and then you can pay an energy for somebody to play a card immediately afterwards. It has to be 0 cost, but let me tell you, there's a lot of 0 cost cards floating around all 5 of these decks that once you play them, you are going to be glad you did, because you're going to get not only the damage out of it from the dice, but whatever awesome effects happen to come with it. Marvin F. Hinton. Codename Roadblock. Roadblock's sheer size and power is enough to intimidate even the strongest of Cobra officers. He's capable of wielding a Browning machine gun, 50 pounds of ammo, and able to shake off the recoil to the weapon with no issues. But underneath is a gentle giant with a strong sense of camaraderie and a desire to be a gourmet chef. He can easily take your canine rations and whip up something way more appetizing. Roadblock has heavy weapons. Once per battle, when an enemy card is defeated, you may spend 1 energy to deal excess damage from that card to an adjacent enemy card. This is great if you have one of those attacks that do like a massive amount of dice, 5, 6, 7 dice, that is only able to focus in on one character, because all of that excess damage then, for the cost of 1 energy, could go to another adjacent enemy card. And because of the way the card is worded, you're able to avoid the guard keyword when assigning this extra damage to the adjacent enemy card. His deck cost breaks down to 0x energy, 7 0 energy, 2 1 energies, and 1 3 energy cards. He has 6 attacks, 2 maneuvers, and 2 reactions. He's standard 3/4/3 type A shield breakdown, and then he actually has 2 star defense shield cards in his deck. That card being Immovable Object. 0 cost reaction card. Play this card when a hero reveals a card for defense and add 1 shield to that card. Or if this card is revealed for defense, gain 1 shield. I believe CoverGirl had something very similar to this, where she had like a 2 shield card or something like that, and when it was revealed, it was just given another shield. Of course, Roadblock, being the massive, massive wall that he is, will just be gaining shields left and right, and then Immovable Object itself will give shields to other characters. He can even give it to himself, if I'm mistaken, when this card is played when a hero reveals. Yeah, so if even he reveals a 3 shield card, he can play this on himself, making that a 4 shield card, making him a very, very strong defensive Joe if you have a lot of these in your hand. And there's 2 of them in his deck, so that's some pretty good defense right there. Speaking of defense and the offense that Roadblock brings to the team, Suppressing Fire, a 0 cost, 2 dice attack. The next time any hero suffers damage, reduce that damage by 1. You're going to need to have some type of token or something in order to remind yourself that whenever a hero takes damage next, it's automatically going to be reduced by 1, because, you know, once you play something like this, it's going to go right to your discard pile. You should have some type of reminder token or something like that. Renegade would be awesome if you gave us some type of reminder token and things like that, just so we know as players for these type of effects that kind of trigger way after we play the cards, for us to be able to remember it. Because this is a vital piece right here. 1 damage could really mean the difference between a hero going down or not. Also, I wonder if this would stack. Like if you played this on 1 turn, defeated the enemy, and then played it on played your second one, because there's 2 of these in his deck, played the second one on the other turn, would attack after that be reduced by 2? Guys, let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below, because I'd really like to know that, because if that is the case, then that just makes Roadblock even better when it comes to defending his team, because you can stack that card to reduce it by 2 and still fire off all of those dice at the enemy. Next, a card that plays into the man's passion. Always time for a cookout. 0 cost maneuver card. Gain 1 energy, and each hero may place 1 card from their hand on top of their deck. You may immediately play another card. First thing first is the end part there. You may immediately play another card. So that means Roadblock is able to play it. But otherwise that, gaining an energy, never a bad thing. We love that so much. And then of course, heroes putting cards on top of their deck means that they are going to be able to plan for any incoming attacks. So like with Gung Ho, being able to put a star card on it, or whatever the star card, the immovable object on top of that for Roadblock, or any other character that you have that may have a powerful ability and a star ability, or a 3 shield card in order to be able to absorb big hits. And then of course, the end of it with you being able to immediately play another card, you're not missing out on your turn, because then you can still play something right afterwards and deal some damage to the enemy. Next is Flush 'em Out, a 1 energy, 3 dice attack. If the target has the guard keyword, add 1 dice to this attack. And this is a great card to use in conjunction with Roadblock special ability, because there's a lot of cards in the games that will have that type of splash damage to it, where any excess damage you can then shoot to another card. But the problem is a lot of that stuff is retargeting to different cards, and that's going to be affected by the guard keyword. And once you defeat a card, so say he fires off of this and you're firing at something with guard, the card, if you beat it, does not flip over into defeated position until all damage has been resolved. So any excess damage for that would still fall under the guard keyword. Roadblock special ability, heavy fire, or heavy weapon, I should say, will be able to ignore that completely. And so that is a great thing to have, a great play with him to not only get a 4 dice attack for 1 energy if you're firing something against guard, and let's be honest, we want to get rid of those guards as fast as possible. And then of course, being able to spread that damage around to other cards and hopefully knocking things out a lot faster and a lot quicker. So this way we can move down the line and beat as many Cobra officers in one shot as we can. Power card, Energy Cannon. 3 energy, 5 dice attack. After you resolve this target, if the target was defeated, deal excess damage from this attack to an enemy card of your choice. So, what I mentioned before about all damage is resolved and then it spreads, this is one of those exceptions to the rules because of the way that it's worded. It says, if the target was defeated, so that means the damage hits it and then it's resolved if the target has been officially flipped over or not. So that means you've defeated it, flipped, it's over. Now you can take that damage and put it to an enemy card of your choice. Also watch the wording on that because it is 1 enemy. Now mind you, you're doing 5 damage right here, or 5 dice I should say, plus maybe you have Gung Ho giving you an extra dice, maybe he gives you an extra dice with one of his cards, things along that ways. That's still a pretty decent amount of dice to roll in one shot to not only be able to take down whatever it is that you're going after, especially if it's a guard card, because as much as Roadblock is a big guard character, his big wall style, he wants to take down those guards as well. And then of course, any other small peons along the way. Good crowd control here for him, especially with that giant weapon to just mow down enemies. And then of course, fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. 0 cost, 2 dice attack. After you resolve an attack, you may spend 1 energy to allow another hero to immediately play 1 card with a 0 cost energy. I think Roadblock has a bunch of them here. Always time for cookouts, suppressing fire, he has a lot of 0 cost cards in his deck himself that I would have no issue being able to play. I mean, of course, fight for freedom, do a 2 dice attack, suppressing fire, do a 2 dice attack, and then somebody gets a 1 shield worth of reduction for the next attack. Heck yeah, I'm gonna take that. So I can see Fight for Freedom being extremely useful for not only the 5 characters that are listed on here, but basically any, any character you have within your games. Alyssa R. Stahl, codename Bombstrike. Whether it be on the soccer field or the battlefield, Bombstrike never misses her target. She has a keen ability to take in all of her surroundings and calculate the perfect strike for her team. In soccer, it's only a game, so she loses gracefully. But in battle, 1 wrong move could mean the end for her team, and she won't have that. She also has 2 brothers, a fellow Joe codename Barrel Roll, and one that joined Cobra, codename Blackout. Forward air control, her position in the Joes, and her special ability here. Once per battle after a vehicle without the passive keyword is used, you may return it to the power board instead of discarding it. Any type of vehicle manipulation is more than welcomed. If you have the Cobra Troopers in your reserve in order to be able to pay for a vehicle twice, that could mean the difference between having to wait another round to beat a lieutenant or a boss, or completely demolishing them and winning the day. Bombstrike's deck breakdown is 0x energy cost, 5 0 energy, 4 1 energy, no 2 energy, and 1 3 energy cards. She has 6 attacks, 2 maneuvers, and 2 reactions, and is the standard 3/4/3 shield breakdown. Growing up watching G.I. Joe, the only female officers I can remember off the top of my head are Scarlet, Lady J, and Jinx. Those are the only 3 that ever keep coming to my head in terms of the female officers from the show. And then Baroness, of course, from Cobra, and Zorana, I believe, is one of the Dreadnoughts. So there's a few floating around. But through Mission Critical and then through the deck builder and a few other things, I am enjoying learning about all of these other female officers that I never do about, like CoverGirl and, of course, Bombstrike. I've never heard of her. I think she's still fairly new to the G.I. Joe lore. I don't think she was in like the original 80s, but in any event, I wish she was because she is awesome. First card, Remote Control. 0 cost reaction. Play this card when a hero uses a vehicle to reduce its cost by 1. You may play this card in any battle, regardless of location. As a solo player, that second part doesn't really matter too much to me because she's always going to be moving around with my team regardless. But if you're playing multi-handed, or if you are playing in a group with 3, 4, 5 people, that's fantastic, because then if you see another team needing some help and there's a vehicle within the power board that you know can help them, not only will you be able to reduce its cost by 1, thus saving all of that, the troopers for something else maybe, but then you'll be able to release that vehicle to them. Oh man, that is amazing. They could always use the vehicle anyway. That doesn't matter, you know, what turn it would be, but being able to reduce that by 1 is great. So good. Next, way ahead of you, 0 cost, 2 dice attack, standard for the core on that. If there's at least 4 foot soldiers on the power board, you may either gain 1 energy or add a die to this attack. So the thing with this one is you got to be careful in terms of how many foot soldiers are on your power board in order to be able to really trigger this off. This is something that you're not going to be playing right away in the beginning of the game. I mean, a 0 cost 2 dice attack isn't really that bad at all, but if you happen to have a lot of foot soldiers on the board and it's piled up for the time, then gaining additional energy, never a bad idea, or having a 0 cost 3 dice attack, also fantastic. You got to get a little lucky on your rolls with these things when it comes to multi-dice, but the more dice you have, the more chance you have of being able to beat something. And as I've always said many, many times before, that could easily make the difference between beating a lieutenant and moving on and not having them, you know, knock out any Joes. And then, of course, saving a Joe's life from going unconscious. Next is Locked On, a 1 energy, 3 dice attack. If this attack defeats the target, place 1 foot soldier figure from the supply onto the power board. That means that if you defeat a foot soldier with Locked On, you're placing 2 tokens onto the power board in order to be able to afford all of those more expensive vehicles. And let me tell you, that's again something that you would want to do as soon as you can, because there are some vehicles in this game that are super powerful, that are able to deal a massive amount of damage across all the cards on there, or just do other kinds of crazy abilities. So with Bombstrike's ability, she's able to put more onto the power board, so this way you're able to spend them faster and use those vehicles faster. And then of course she also has the ability to reduce it by 1. She works fantastic with Cover Girl, who also has a lot of similar abilities of reducing costs and getting vehicles out as fast as possible. So if you are going to be building a game based around vehicles, these 2 would be the one that you would want for sure. Next, UAV Reconnaissance, and I think that's Unmanned Aerial Vehicle. 1 energy maneuver card, remove 1 foot soldier from another location and place it on the power board. So it's not in the area that you're in. Whatever area you're in, you still have to deal with the foot soldiers within that particular wedge on the board and whatnot. But at the very least, there are times when I've seen sections of the board, maybe like 1 or 2 away from panicking, and I know that I wouldn't be able to get there for that turn in order to be able to clear it out or reduce the number. UAV Reconnaissance is the absolute answer to that, because I put it down, I fire it off, and even though none of the foot soldiers in front of me really get affected, I'm able to knock out a foot soldier from a different location and reduce that number down, opening up another spot for the deployment phase. Plus, it's defeated, it goes on the power board, which means more foot soldiers to spend to get those amazing vehicles. Power card, super card, Joe card, I don't know, you guys will let me know what you really want to call these things. Targeted Airstrike, 3 energy, 6 dice attack. I had to recount that, I thought that was 5. You may remove up to 3 foot soldiers from the power board to reduce the energy cost of this card by an equal amount. So for every one that you would remove from it, it would be basically spending an energy to play this. So you could remove 3 foot soldiers, and this is a 0 cost, 2, and this is a 1, etc., etc., etc. You may play this card in any battle regardless of location. Again, really good in terms of multiplayer games. If you have a 3, 4, 5 player game and somebody is Bombstrike, you may even just have her in certain areas just kind of doing her thing with big groups, and always holding on to cards like this and the other one where she can use it on other battles. So this way, in reserve, if things are going really bad, she can immediately send in a targeted airstrike to lay waste to the field. And again, if you have Roadblock apparently in that fight, this is a 6 dice attack. She could target an airstrike all 6 attacks, and then Roadblock could be able to use his ability to spread that damage around the field. And then, of course, Fight for Freedom. And again, the only way that you're going to really know that this is Bombstrike's card is in the bottom left corner. You'll see the symbol, you'll see her name and everything. Otherwise that, all the Joe cards are the same color, all of them have the same images on them and everything like that. I do still appreciate the fact that not only these 3 characters, but Beachhead and Ripcord, who I'm going to talk about a little bit later, are on this card. So it's like you look at this card and you're like, okay, so these 5 characters are the ones with Fight for Freedom. Just like how in the core box, Yo Joe was for those 5 characters, and they were on the card as well. This looks like more the image here, something that actually happened in the comics. I do wonder that in Yo Joe, is that something that Renegade commissioned out to Hasbro, or is that an actual scene with those 5 particular characters together? Oddly enough, they're the ones that are in the game. And then maybe this might have been the same way. I don't know. But hey, it's really cool the way that that works out, at least. I wish, again, they were a little bit different so I can distinguish them for each one of the decks, but still an awesome concept here. Wallace A. Weems, codename Ripcord. Ripcord has one of the most dangerous assignments among the Joes. He jumps from a plane so high up he needs an oxygen mask to breathe. These high altitude, low oxygen or halo jumps have very little margin of error and can easily result in Ripcord's death if he wasn't so good at them. These type of insertions are done to avoid visual and electronic detections when it comes to entering enemy lines. Ripcord's confidence, experience, and coolness under pressure, added with his love of skydiving, make him the ideal Joe for this dangerous task. He is the Halo Jumper. Discard a card from your hand worth a total of at least 3 shields to move Ripcord to the location of the current battle and immediately join the battle. Again, not my favorite thing when it comes to solo mode because he's going to be moving around with them anyway, but if you have those 3, 4, 5 player games, he can just literally land in the middle of the battle so long as he discards card from his hands to be equaling 3 shields, so he can do a 1 shield and a 2 shield, a 3 shield by itself, 3 1 shields, however he wants to do it. So long as it equals at least 3 shields, Ripcord can jump right into the battle and immediately take part in defeating Cobra. Within his deck, you'll find 0x energy, 7/0 energy, 2/1 energy, no 2 energy, and 1/3 energy cost cards. He has 6 attacks, 2 maneuvers, and 2 reactions, along with the standard Type A 3/4/3 shield breakdown. I want to talk about this first card, Bongo the Balloon Bear. I had no idea what this meant at all. When I saw this card, I'm like, that is extremely random. I have no idea what the heck this is about. I did find it out online. I'm going to read it to you. In Marvel Comics G.I. Joe series, this first appeared in issue 32. Ripcord develops a relationship with a civilian named Candy Apple, interesting, who worked freelance as Bogo the Bear, performing at birthday parties and similar events. The relationship is marred by Ripcord being unable to tell Candy his real name or clearly explain why they draw the attention of Cobra forces. So Bogo the Balloon Bear is the person that Ripcord is in love with, and he can't tell her exactly what it is that he does or why bad things apparently seem to follow him around. But in any case, this particular card is a 0-cost reaction card. Play this card when any hero resolves an attack card, gain an amount of energy equal to that card's energy cost. So basically, you spend the energy to get it back with Bogo the Balloon Bear. So if you're playing 3 energy cost, as soon as it's played and you spend the energy, you need to have the energy to spend, you play this and ultimately you get it back. This would actually work pretty cool with Bombstrike's 3 energy cost, because you could play it, use the Cobra Troopers in order that you have on your power board to reduce it to 0, and then play Bogo the Balloon Bear on top of that to gain 3 energy. So you're netting 3 energy from that. That's pretty cool. Getting into more of Ripcord's specialties here. Parachute Assault, a 0-cost 2-dice attack. If this is Ripcord's first attack during this battle, add 1 damage to this attack. So again, if this is Ripcord's first attack, there are cards out there that will play off of if somebody else does something before the particular character. Doesn't matter who this is. It would have said if this is the first attack of the round, then there would be a completely different circumstance in which you would use this card. No, if this is Ripcord's first attack, meaning that he could jump into the battle in the middle of the battle and then use parachute assault as soon as he gets in there to not only deal 1 guaranteed damage, but 2 dice attack right onto it. And you know, sometimes that 1 guaranteed damage, you know, you need it. I mean, I talk about all the time doing that 1 damage to random cards on the field. It adds up. Next, Cargo Drop. 0-cost maneuver card. Gain 1 energy. The hero of your choice may take a card from their discard pile and shuffle it into their deck. Then that hero may draw up to 2 cards. So it's a healing card. Very nice. So this way you're able to throw something back into somebody's deck. If you have like Gung Ho or whatever, you want to get his star cards back to the deck. You do have to shuffle it though, so you're not going to be guaranteed where it's going to be in the deck if you happen to need it, unless he has like 1 card left, then it's a 50-50 shot. But then that hero may draw up to 2 cards. So if that fully heals somebody, if they only have 1 card in their discard pile, they can throw it in, shuffle it, and then draw 2 cards in order to power up a little bit. then that's not a bad thing either. So the cargo that's dropped is basically more health for your Joes, more cards in order to be able to defend and attack and whatnot. And then of course, 1 energy, which is always great to have. This looks like Ripcord's go-to weapon, the Paratrooper Carbine. 1 energy, 2 guaranteed damage. Ignore the guard keyword when choosing a target for this attack. No rolling required, everyone. This is just 2 straight damage for 1 energy, which in all honesty is really not that bad. Ideally, you're rolling 2 dice as it is sometimes for 1 energy, so you're going to probably get that 2 damage. Anyway, at least for this, you don't have to worry about taking that chance of doing a complete miss or something along that ways. Plus, it ignores the guard keyword. And any card that you have that will ignore the guard keyword is a great card to have because there's a lot of passives out there from troopers and everything that are only like 2 health or like maybe 3 health, and you can use something to ping it out later. That being able to deal a little bit of damage to it should be enough to either knock it out completely and get rid of that passive, or weaken enough for another Joe to come in and take it down. And as I mentioned before, one of his specialties, the high altitude, low oxygen halo jump. 3 energy, 5 dice attack. Ignore the guard keyword when choosing a target for this attack. If this is Ripcord's first attack during this battle, gain 1 energy. And again, you would need to pay the energy first in order to gain that 1 energy back. So you just can't have 2 energy in the pool and play this and expect to be able to get through it. You need to be able to pay the 3 energy. And again, this is something awesome in order to be able to go with that BOGO card, because if this is the first thing he plays, he'll pay the 3 energy, he'll get 1 back, so ideally he's only paying 2, and then BOGO will get 3 more. So you're just stockpiling energy for the team for the rest of the battle, so long as this is Ripcord's first attack that he does. Only for Ripcord, because again, him jumping into battle, and as soon as he gets within range, he does something. And so you see these cards actually take advantage of that. Really cool mechanic. I'm hoping that I see more stuff like this, because I like the idea of the first card a character plays, or the first thing that they do is like supercharge and hypercharge, so they get a little bonus out of it. So very cool to see that within Ripcord. And honestly, it works thematically with him. Never a bad thing. And of course, fight for freedom. Ripcord here actually doesn't have his oxygen mask and everything on, which is fine because he's on the ground. He doesn't need it. It is kind of a staple for him though, as you've been seeing through some of these cards, to have that mask on and everything. Same thing with like Beachhead. Like Ripcord and Beachhead both have these masks on that kind of identify them who they are. For Ripcord, it's more practical because he needs all the oxygen when he's making these halo jumps. For Beachhead, it's more to be intimidating to the foes. Wayne R. Sneeden, codename Beachhead. Beachhead's life is defined by patience, discipline, and absolute dedication to his profession. When he hits the ground running, he doesn't stop until his objective has been reached. Beachhead is a highly motivated individual with a high pain threshold, low tolerance for underachievers, and feels anger is a waste of energy. For him, he'd rather get even. Beachhead's special ability, Relentless Ranger. Once per battle during any hero turn in which Beachhead has no cards in his hand, Beachhead may perform an attack with 3 dice instead of playing a card. A lot of Beachhead cards requires him not to have any cards in his hand, which personally for me I think makes him ideal for solo play. And that also means that once per battle, if Beachhead has no cards in your hand, aka if you're a solo player and there's no Beachhead cards at all among the 7 or so cards you have, he can then instead do a 3 dice attack for one of the Joe turns, and you don't even have to worry about playing a card. That is a great ability because it's a free 3 dice attack and doesn't even require a card. His deck breaks down to 0x energy, 7/0 energy, 2/1 energy, no 2 energy, and 1/3 energy cards. He has 5 attacks, 4 maneuvers, 1 reaction. The standard 3/4/3 Type A shield breakdown, and check your cards because he does have 2 cards out of his 10 deck that are star defenses, but it does not have a star above the shields. And that's the one I'm starting with. First in, last out. As you can see from the image over here, this is a direct scan from the cards that I have, and there is no star above those 2 shields. However, this is a 0 cost 2 dice attack, standard for the course as we know. Star. If this card is revealed for defense, deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice. If you have no cards in your hand, deal 1 additional damage. That's very important. This is very important. This should have had a star on it, because when you're flipping for defense in the heat of battle, you may not really realize that there is a star defense power on this card. And there's 2 of these in his deck. If you have no cards in your hand as Beachhead, if you're just taking the damage, you're now doing 2 damage to any cards you want. Well, 1 damage to one and 1 damage to another. It can go to the same card for whatever. It's 1 card to an enemy choice. I should know it's just an additional damage. You're doing 2 damage to an enemy card of your choice, which is still even great. It's just a free 2 damage anywhere on the field that can ignore guard. This really needed to have the star on it. I'm wondering if there's going to be an errata pack in order to be able to put this on there. If there is, somebody let me know down in the comments below. Possibly put a link or something like that, so this way other people can find it, because I think that's kind of important. It may get overlooked when you're playing, and it's a very strong ability to not take advantage of. Moving on, next, Intimidation. 0 cost maneuver card. Place 1 card from your hand on top of your deck. Then deal an amount of damage to an enemy card with the passive or guard keyword, so it can only be that, equal to the number of shields on that card. So the best thing for you to do then is to take any card that you have in your hand that's like 3 shields, or 2 shields might be all right too. But of course you want to deal the most damage possible. So you would reveal it as a 3 shield, it would go on top of your deck, and you would deal that much damage to an enemy card with passive or guard keywords. Again, these are not targeted attacks. So if that passive has a guard next to it, you can get past the guard in order to defeat it. That's his whole thing of intimidating the enemy and making them get knocked out or knock themselves out or something along that ways with that crazy mask that he wears. That's kind of the whole purpose behind the intimidation card. You want to take the highest shield value you can, put it on top of your deck in order to be able to deal as much damage as possible. Plus, as I continue to go through these, as you knew from the last card, the less cards Beachhead has in his hand, in fact, if he has no hands, that's even better, the stronger his cards are. Patience is one of Beachhead's greatest attributes. 0 cost maneuver card. You may place up to 3 cards in your hand on top of your deck. Gain 1 energy for each card placed. This is fun to be able to just kind of draw some cards for Beachhead to see what it is that you have and maybe hold on to a card or 2 that you think you're going to be able to use for something. And then you put down Patience and just one by one, put them right back on top of your deck. It's also a great way of stacking the deck. If you're patient, you're calm, you're clear-minded, and you know exactly the way that your deck is going to play out through each one of the attacks that will be incoming to Beachhead. So I love this card. I love I just love the whole concept behind Beachhead of having as few cards in your hand as possible, and then just all these different things happening, all these different triggers and stuff like that. So really, really cool way to play. And again, I think he would be amazing in solo play. And continuing to play off the no cards in your hand thing, push to the limits. A 1 energy, 3 dice attack. After you resolve this attack, if there are no cards in your hand, you may perform an additional 2 dice attack. So for 1 energy, you're getting a 3 dice attack, and if now there are no cards in your hand, because when you play this goes into play and it is officially out of your hand. If there are no Beachhead cards in your hand whatsoever, then boom, you get another 2 dice attack right on top of it. And usually when you ever have these additional attacks, and including with this card and everything, you can then send those 2 dice to a different target. You do not have to hit the same target that the first 3 dice went for. So that means if you beat that target, fantastic. Now you have 2 dice to go somewhere else. If you do not beat that target, maybe you want to take that 2 dice and start weakening another card a little bit later. So this way somebody can come on in with another AoE attack or something like that in order to take them down one by one. Patience make it great because you can put cards on top of your decks. This way push the limit's the only one in your hand, play it, and then he just goes to town with 5 dice. 3 and then 2 and then maybe you won. Again with Beachhead, anger is a waste of time. He would rather go and get even. He Gets Even is a 3 energy reaction card. Play this card after an enemy deals damage to a hero, any hero. Deal the same amount of damage to an enemy card that has already been activated during this turn. So that means turned sideways. So you have a card that then deals damage to a player. It says the same amount of damage dealt to that player. So if they are dealt 4, 5, 6 damage from a very powerful like lieutenant card or something like that, you can play He Gets Even. And even though it doesn't reduce any of the damage or anything along that ways, that hero still has to figure out how to take in all of that damage and using their cards to defend it and things along that ways. You can then take that damage and move it towards a previously resolved card in order to get rid of it. So that can be a really good way of knocking down lieutenant cards that you're not sure how to get rid of a little bit later. And it's just, Just a really strong, powerful card for Beachhead to have. The only problem is like it doesn't do anything in terms of like being like a card in your hand. Like all of his other cards you need to get rid of in order for them to activate things. This you would want to hold on to in your hand in order to be able to use it when the time is right a little bit later in the battle. So it's determining on, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to hold on to this card? Do you think it'll be helpful for later on? If you're just going up against foot soldiers, it might be best to keep this on top because it is 3 shield. Or if you have a lieutenant or a boss there that's doing a massive amount of damage, great way in order to bring that damage back to their face. And then, of course, fight for freedom. Wherever there's trouble, G.I. Joe and Beachhead and all of them are there. Nothing more that I could say about this that I haven't said from the previous 4 as well. Beachhead's in the bottom left along with the Chaos Break symbol there, that weird anarchy side. There he is all the way to the one side, wearing his mask, whereas everyone else is freely exposed and everything. Same thing as always. After you resolve this attack, you may spend 1 energy to allow another hero to immediately play one card with an energy cost of 0. Another great way of just getting cards out of his hand. If you have 0 cost cards, play Freedom, Fight for Freedom, and then play another 0 cost card, and that's less cards that Beachhead has in his hand. It's really hard with Beachhead simply because you want to have the least amount of cards in your hand in order to be able to get the most out of them. But at the same time, that does leave you like really open to not hitting or not being able to assist with your other Joes at all. Like you could take hits coming in, but you don't have any way of really doing damage consistently throughout the course of the battle if you don't have any cards in your hand. He's a little bit higher of a complexity character to play as, and I think he is absolutely amazing. And should I do a solo mode of this game, I would probably put him in my team. Actually, I would almost guarantee to put him in my team. Sargent Slaughter. Real name? Classified. Tough, stern, extremely mean, and one of the best drill instructors ever in history. Sargent Slaughter's personal mission is to beat all trainees into examples of military perfection. If they can survive him, they're good enough for the Joe team. Slaughter is also qualified to drive many Joe ground vehicles, treating them that he would new recruits. Not as tough as he is, he doesn't want them. Drill Master, his special ability. Once per battle during any hero turn, you may discard 1 card to allow another hero to perform an attack with 3 dice instead of playing a card. Now remember, this is all about the wording. You may discard 1 card. That means Sargent Slaughter would have to discard. It's not even a may. I don't even know why the word may is there. You pretty much have to discard the card in order to allow the hero to perform the 3 dice attack. So this is him basically giving a yell, giving a shout, giving like, hey, you punk, let's go, in order for the hero of your choice to be able to roll 3 dice as an attack instead of playing a card from their hand. Fantastic ability, and also it's a great way to kind of like take those cards that you may not really need Sargent Slaughter to have and transform them into a 3 dice attack. Within his deck, you will find 0x energy, 7-0 energy, 2-1 energy, 0-2 energy, and 1-3 energy cards. He has 6 attacks, 2 maneuvers, and 2 reactions, and is a 3-4-3 shield type A breakdown. So yes, Sargent Slaughter, the G.I. Joe character, does have a name that's classified, and Hasbro has never actually officially announced what that name is. Now, you may be also thinking of Sargent Slaughter, which is the ring name of the WWF, well, now the WWE wrestler, Robert Rudolph Remus. He debuted in 1972 and is currently still working for the WWE in their ambassador program. 1972, that was like, I'm an older guy, but I wasn't even born at that point when he debuted in the after the time, WWE. But Robert Remus is not the name of Sargent Slaughter in G.I. Joe. That's the stage name is Sargent Slaughter, but the Sargent Slaughter character appears in the show, in the movie, things along that ways. Got it? Great. Awesome. You're an amazing guy, Slaughter, Remus. Keep up the good work. All right, with that all out of the way, let's check out his Cannon Lariat, a 0 cost, 2 guaranteed damage attack. If this card is discarded from your hand without being played, deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice. This right there is immediately being used for Drill Master, where if it's another hero's turn, you can discard this card from your hand to give them a 3 dice attack, but you'll also deal 1 damage to whatever card you want. And again, in G.I. Joe Mission Critical, these deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice abilities happen all the time. You're going to find yourself knocking out entire foot soldiers like that by just using these abilities over and over and over again. Cannon Lariat is the one that you want in your hand in order to be able to use this special ability, or you could just use it to deal a guaranteed 2 damage, no dice rolling required. Next, Eternal Vigilance. Here's some crazy cards. This is great. 0 cost reaction card. Play this card after a hero discards a card from their hand without playing it. So you would discard a card from your hand without playing it, and then you could play this on top of it because it's a reaction. Gain 1 energy. A hero of your choice may draw up to 2 cards. So it's now throwing an energy into the mix and then also giving other heroes on the field more cards into their hand. And then, of course, if you played Cannon Lariat, you're doing a damage. Then you can play this on top of it, gaining an energy. And he himself could also draw more cards into his hand. So this way he could be able to play more stuff along that way. It's so awesome. The way that it just kind of works off of each other, and he is just kind of simulate him barking orders. Like he throws a card down and says, you gotta be in there, you gotta do this, get moving, soldier. And it just gives them that type of push, that boost in order to be able to do whatever it is they need to do. These next 2 0 cost cards, I wonder if one of these 2 appear in other decks, because at this point, what the characters you see on this card, there are a few that have already been released that I haven't seen their decks for to know it's in there. So first we have Slaughter's Marauders, a 0 cost, 2 dice attack. Each hero may discard 1 card from their hand, add 1 die to this attack for each hero who does so. You may divide this damage among any number of targets. Again, this is target. It's specifying targets, so the guard keyword is in play when it comes to spreading this damage. But also this is discard 1 card from your hand, so he can discard it and do all that other crazy stuff and yada, yada, yada. What I'm more interested is, and even though that's a really cool ability, don't get me wrong, it's great, are the Joes that are surrounding Slaughter here on the card. It's Junkyard and Mutt in the bottom left, Lowlight right above him, Barbecue above Slaughter's head, Spirit and Freedom right over there, and I can't remember who that is. Oh, gosh, I can't think of it. You guys let me know who that is down there or whatever. I know he was one of the original Joes and everything like that. It's going to come to me randomly. But I know that Mutt and Junkyard and Barbecue have been released. So for those of you that have those expansions out there, can you let me know, is this card in one of their decks? And if not this card, is the next one in their deck? The Pledge, 0 cost, maneuver card. Each hero may place 1 card from their hand on top of their deck. Gain 1 energy for each hero who does so. So the other one would be adding dice to that attack in order to power it up for every hero that does it. This one is gaining an energy for every hero that does it. And it's really cool that way, because that's everybody on the table then working together. Like, all right, I'm playing this. Who wants to discard a card? Me. Power up. Oh, yes, we're stronger that way. So now we have all of these characters here, all ready to take that same pledge to gain the energy. And again, you got Slaughter, you got Junkyard, Barbecue, Spirit, I believe that is, Lowlight in the back. Man, you're on the tip of my tongue there. I just can't think of your name for the life of me. Anyway, moving on from his 0 cost cards, but there was a lot in that deck, by the way. Inverted Suplex Slam. You got to have that emphasis to it because it is definitely a wrestling move. 1 energy, 2 dice attack. Add 1 die that is attack for each keyword the target has. Fast, guard, passive. Those are right now, I believe, the only 3 keywords that a card can have. And there are cards out there that do have multiple keywords attached to them. Some of them even have all 3. So for every one of those keywords on it, he would add an additional dice to this attack. So this could be very, very powerful going up against the right card. And I think that's the idea behind it, because Slaughter just gets stronger and stronger and stronger the more that's in front of him. And the stronger the enemy is, the stronger he's, like a Hulk of sorts, just ready to go in and rip him to shreds and take them down in order to be able to win the day. Ready, making that pledge. And now I wonder if this is like his finisher move when it comes to his WWF career. The Clutch, a 3 energy maneuver card. Discard your hand, the whole hand, gone. Defeat 1 enemy card of your choice that has already resolved. So if you have a boss card who has a massive amount of health, who's done all the things or whatever, it doesn't matter if it's guarded or whatnot. You could play the Clutch, get rid of every card in your hand, and that card is immediately defeated. That is awesome. That is a way to just kind of really, even if it's at the end of the battle of sorts, maybe you have one final boss card that you just can't beat, and you're going through all of the foot soldiers are hitting you, whatever. You play the clutch in order to get rid of it. You've defeated the lieutenant, you defeated possibly the boss, and Slaughter is there, grabbing him, holding him in the headlock, making him say uncle. And now for the vehicle portion of this breakdown. First we have the Jump, the Jet Unit Mobile Propulsion Backpack, basically. It's a rocket pack. It's a rocket pack. Good stuff. Be a Rocketeer. Amazing. For 2 foot soldiers on your power board, you roll 2 dice. For each damage rolled, a hero shuffles 1 card from the discard pile into their deck. So ideally, you could actually do a quick heal right there of maximum 4 cards if you happen to be really lucky. The problem with the Jump is because you are rolling a dice, you may or may not get the results you want. This thing might be a little on the fritz. It may not work out as well as you'd hope. You are rolling all blanks, and your Jump pretty much just does a barely little skip, and you get nothing out of it. But it is only 2, foot soldiers in order to activate. So if you need a quick heal for a character that's like running low on their cards or whatever, and you know that there's better things in their discard pile that you would love to throw onto their deck really fast, play the Jump for them in order to hopefully get a chance. You're rolling 2 dice. At least you should be able to get 1 card from that discard pile on there. And again, depending on if it's a star defense or something like that, you may be able to use that for like a great extra effect or something like that to come into play, or throw a 3 shield on it so this way they can stay in the battle a little bit longer so they can absorb a bit more damage. Next is the Falcon Glider, another 2-cost vehicle. Use this card when any hero performs an attack to ignore the guard keyword while choosing a target. For 2 foot soldiers, that is a bargain in its own right. You could definitely go in there with some of your high attack cards, 5, 6 dice or whatever, and just to say that I'm able to avoid the guard keyword when firing at it is fantastic. I don't know how many times I've played these games where I've had guard cards surround passives where the passives just did the worst possible thing ever, and I would need to defeat the guard cards in order to get to the passive. By the time I beat the passive, it didn't matter because I didn't have any other things on the field. To be able to get to one of those cards and knock it out early, that's exactly what the glider is for, and that is why I could find a lot of use out of this. So many uses. Vehicle number 3 is the Triple T, the Tag Team Terminator. For 3 foot soldiers, use this vehicle when a hero performs an attack with exactly 3 dice. Add 3 dice to that attack. This is what came with Sargent Slaughter. This is his special attack card and everything. It's a very specific thing that you need, a 3 dice attack, which actually appears a little bit more frequently than I'm probably familiar with based on all these cards I just went through here. But the moment you use this, you can spend 3 in order to add 3 dice. That is great. You have now just taken it could be a 0-cost 3 dice attack, and for 3 foot soldiers from your power board, turned it into a 6 dice attack. Fly in with the glider in order to be able to avoid guard, and you got yourself a great combination right there in order to take out some of the harder enemies on the board, almost in a better chance because you're rolling so many dice using the vehicles. Man, these vehicles, I'm telling you, make or break the system. They are great, they are great, they're amazing, and I can't wait to see what even more of them do. The Submersible High-Speed Attack and Reconnaissance Craft. This is the Shark. For 3 foot soldiers, this is a passive, and this just stays in the field for the remainder of the battle once you activate it. So you want to do this as soon as you can. Until the end of the battle, each time a hero suffers damage, they may choose 1 card in their hand and place it on top of their deck. So I'm reading it like words as written here. Each time a hero suffers damage, that means that they have already suffered the damage. So if they have taken 1 point of damage, they've already gone to their deck, flipped it over the shields, and put it on the bottom. Then they could take cards from their hands and put it on top. That's how I would interpret the Shark. That's how I think that it should go in terms of order of operations. I would like you guys out there to let me know exactly if you agree with that or not, if that's how you would play it. Words as written, that's what it looks like to me. It's not before you take damage you can do it. It's when a hero takes damage, each time a hero suffers damage. So the damage would have to happen, and then the card would go on top, preparing for any more damage coming in. That's what I think. But that's a great passive to have for the whole duration of the round, because you may take the initial damage, but then you can just start stacking your deck in order to be able to survive more and more hits. The Heavy Artillery Vehicle Ordnance Carrier, the Havoc. 4 foot soldiers will give you this passive card for the remainder of the battle, which is until the end of the battle, all double hit die results count as 3 hits when rolling for hero attacks. So if you roll and you get a double hit for the remainder of the battle, so long as the Havoc is out, they count as 3 hits. This is something that you definitely want to play and get into the field as soon as you can when going up against lieutenants, when going up against bosses, Nemesis, any type of high profile enemy, because yes, rolling a double hit dice is a 1 in 6 chance. It's only one thing on those dice. But if you do, every attack, every roll that would have a double hit to it would count as 3. And that's just it. All double hit die results count as 3 hits when rolling for a hero attack. You play the jump then. If you happen to get 2 double hits, you now get 6 cards because the double hits count as 3. That's what the Havoc does. That's how it's written. That's why it's awesome. And finally, the Dragonfly. Hoo-wee, this is Megazord level of card right here. 6 foot soldiers in order to activate this assault chopper. Deal 1 damage to each enemy card. This is what the original Megazord, the original Dino Megazord from Power Rangers did. When you got them and they started the battle, they just did 1 damage to everything. This Dragonfly is now a vehicle that will be shuffled in, and you could have this as early as round 1, right there on your spot in order to be able to activate its ability. And then of course, you could have a maximum of, I want to say 12, I think might be on the power board, 10 or 12. Say it's 10. I think it's 12, but say it's 10. You can then use an ability to reduce the cost, so now that's 5 in order to do this. And then you have Bombstrike's ability that puts it back on the board, and then you can spend another 6 or whatever in order to be able to do it again later on if you happen to beat a foot soldier or whatever. So amazing. Like, you could end up playing this multiple times in one round and just devastate the field over and over and over again. And these are just some of the reasons, some of the many reasons that I really love the vehicle mechanic in G.I. Joe Mission Critical. And there you have it, everybody. The first 3 expansions that came out for G.I. Joe Mission Critical. Heavy Firepower, Chaos Break, and Sargent Slaughter by himself, because why not? I don't know if I'm going to be doing a playthrough using these guys anytime soon. I have a lot of stuff right now on my list that I need to get done in terms of like other videos and things along that ways. But it is something that I would like to come back and revisit at some point in the future, because I think my team would probably be at this point Slaughter, Gung Ho, and Beachhead. But who knows, you guys let me know all your different opinions and everything. Bombstrike is amazing. Of course, I would love to use her. Roadblock is awesome. Ripcord is not that great, in my opinion, for solo, but if I ever had the opportunity to play with him and other people, I would definitely do that. And of course, all the vehicles are amazing. But if that happened to change and I do end up playing this, you definitely don't want to miss that. So be sure that you are subscribed to the Home Gamer Dad so you don't miss any future G.I. Joe Mission Critical action or any other fun video I happen to put out for you to enjoy. If you wish to further support the channel in order to help it grow even further, a super thanks is more than appreciated. You'd be able to find that down in the description section below, or you can head on over to patreon.com/homegamerdad. Check out the tiers over there. I'm always kind of tweaking it now, trying to figure out some new stuff in there, different tiers and things along that ways. But at the very least, the minimum tier will be able to give you more voting power for whenever I do votes about characters that I play as. The next tier up with that would be able to get you long form videos instead of having them broke up into different parts. And then who knows what else I'm going to be putting on there. I have a bunch of different ideas that I think I can get on there if I had time to actually execute them, which hopefully I will sooner than later. Thank you again. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown for these Joes. Take care of yourselves and each other. We are family forever, gaming together, defending the world, bringing about peace, and training ourselves up one Joe at a time. You guys have a good one, and I will see you in the next one.